On today's beginner series, we're going to build one of these, and then we're going to build one of these, and we're going to finish up with this. Let's get right after it. Today's video is brought to you by Basecamp Dust Masks. If you're looking for a tight-fitting, effective dust mask for your shop that remains breathable and comfortable, Basecamp has a mask for you. Head on over to their website, use our promo code listed here on the screen for 10% off all of your orders, and make sure you tell them Newcraft Workshop sent you.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tim and this is Newcraft Workshop. You have found our beginners woodworking series. This is already episode 8. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and when this video is over, give us a big thumbs up. Also, when this video is over, head over to our channel, check out the first 7 episodes. Each one of these builds, we give you 3 awesome projects that you guys can make out in your shop with 3 tools or less. We use a saw. I cheat and use a miter saw. If you don't have a miter saw, you can get one of these plastic miter saw boxes right here on Amazon. I use a brad nailer, but you're welcome to use a hammer and nails. And we use a drill. With those 3 tools, we're going to show you guys how to build 3 awesome projects today. So real quick before we get to the build, here is last episode's winner. I asked you guys to hit some numbers as far as likes, comments, subscribers, and we blew it out of the water. So this person right here, I am in contact with them and I am trying to get them a gift shipped to them. If I do not hear back from them Sunday after this video posts, I'll reach out to someone else. All you got to do to enter our weekly giveaway is give us a like, add a comment to the comment sections, or become a new subscriber. Hopefully you'll do all 3, but that's all it takes. So as far as this week's episodes, let's get right to build number 1.
Okay, first up is this beginner and kid-friendly build. We are going to make a toothbrush and toothpaste holder for the bathroom. Let's get right after it.
All right, let's get to build number 1. This is going to be that toothbrush holder that I just showed you guys. And as always, like I tell you guys every week, make it your own. I'm making ours for 2 toothbrushes, 2 things of toothpaste because me and my wife use different toothpaste. But if you got kids and you're making this for their bathroom, or better yet, if you got kids, get them in the shop. This is a project they absolutely can help you with. This is going to be a couple cuts, 4 holes, some hammer nails, glue, clamps if you got them. This is a easy project the kids can get involved with. So make it your own. 1 toothpaste, 3 toothbrushes. If you got 5 kids, 5 toothbrushes. It's easy to adjust this.
How many kids you got?
Here's what we're going to need cut list wise. We're only going to need 4 pieces of 1x4. We have 2 of them cut to 9 inches. Adjust that width accordingly. I'm making this for 2 toothbrushes and 2 toothpastes because me and my wife use different toothpaste. And you're going to need 2 pieces cut to 3 inches. That's going to be for our height. As far as tools we're going to need today, we are going to need a drill and we are going to need 2 bits. I'm using Forstner bits, what I prefer in my shop, but feel free to use a paddle or a spade bit. I am using a 5/8 bit for the toothbrushes and a 2-inch bit for the toothpaste. Brad nailer, glue, a couple clamps. If you don't have clamps, you don't have to clamp it. I'm just going to clamp it because I'm using some big box store lumber and honestly it's got a little bit of a bow to it. So I'm just going to straighten that out with some clamps. First thing we're going to do, we're going to find the center of this board. We want a nice straight line down this. I know that my 1x4s are 3.5 inches wide. So we're going to be at 1 3/4 for our center line. I am just going to adjust my square to 1 3/4. And then I'm going to just trace a line down the center of this board. Now, as far as where the holes are going, we're going to come in 1.5 inches. Move it over here so you guys can see. We're going to do 1.5 inches, and then we're going to do 3.5 inches. We're going to do that from both ends. 1.5, 3.5. Now, Our outside is going to be our larger of our two holes. This is where our toothpaste is going to go. And then in the center, we're going to do our 7/8 inch hole. Toothpaste, toothbrush. Again, change it up. Just make sure you leave yourself space. You don't want this 2-inch bit too close to each other because your holes are going to possibly overlap if you don't give yourself enough space. I've given myself 2 inches so that when I drill this 7/8 hole here, I know that my holes are going to have enough space in between. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to drill some holes. And as always, anytime we're using a bit this big, we're just going to put a backer board behind it, give ourselves something on the backside to assist us with eliminating as much of that blowout as we can. So let's drill some holes. And if you're new to spade bits or paddle bits, they are messy. So let me clean this up and we'll get on to the next step.
What a mess.
Okay, so at this point, this is what we have. We have our cut piece, our bottom, our two sides, and our top. This is going to go together just like this, and that's it. So we're going to start with some glue. This is indoors, so no need for anything other than just Titebond Original. Any kind of wood glue. If you're a Gorilla Glue fan, use Gorilla. Doesn't matter. Wood glue for interior use isn't as important as when we're making stuff for outdoors. All we're going to do here is line up each of these with our edges and drive a couple nails into each part. Now, again, I'm cheating.
He's a phony. Lousy cheater.
I'm using my nail gun, and this is something beginners, this is a luxury, but it's definitely something I would consider investing in when you get the chance financially. This is going to make your builds so much quicker and more enjoyable because you don't have to sit there and try to hammer a nail in straight and accurate. And it's easier to hold your material in place while you are using a nail gun versus trying to use a hammer and nails. So as you can see, I'm just putting 3 in either side. And then we're going to do the same thing with our top. Make sure we clean off our glue. Always make sure you get your glue now. It's so much easier to clean it now than it is when it's dry. And as you could see in the little intro video, I definitely dressed ours up a little bit. I ran it across the router table. I'm going to round over these holes. Completely not a necessity, but if you have that tool available in your shop, definitely going to make this thing a little bit nicer looking. Now, I am clamping this together because, again, big box lumber is not always as straight and precise as we want it, and I definitely have a cupped end here. It's going to be stable when it dries, and I am going to fill in all of these cracks because, as you saw in the video, this gets painted. So this is the end of project 1. Could it be more simple? Probably not. Get the kids out in the shop. Let them help you make this. This is a fun project to get the kids involved, or if you're just learning to do woodworking and you want to make something that you can use on a daily basis that you made yourself. That's it. Project 1, toothbrush holder. Let's get to project 2.
Next up, we're going to make this birdhouse. This has a modern flair made from 1x material from the big box store, a scrap piece of wooden dowel, and some exterior grade paint. Let's get going.
All right, build number 2 is this cool little modern take on a birdhouse. So let's get right into this build. Here's your cut list. You're going to need some 1x6. We're going to need a piece of 4.5 inches. We're going to need a piece of 7 inches. We're going to need 2 1x8s. First one is going to be cut 7.5. Second one is 8 1/4. And then finally, we're going to need 2 pieces of 1x6. These are cut at a 30-degree angle. And the long end of this is 7.5 inches long. 7.5, 30 degrees. I have no idea what this is, but that's what's left over for that particular cut. We're going to need a 3/8 inch dowel, 2 inches long. And then here's the tools we're going to need. Here's your tools list. We're going to need our drill. We're going to need a couple bits for this. We're going to need a 1/4 inch drill bit for the bottom. We're going to drill some drainage holes. We're going to need a 3/8 inch bit for our dowel, and we are going to need a 1 3/4 inch bit for the doorway for the birds to get in and out. You're going to need a hammer and nails, or in my case, because I cheat all the time, we're going to need our brad nailer. We're going to need our drill / driver, and we're going to need 2 screws to screw the top down, because I do want the top removable, so every season we can clean out the inside of this birdhouse. And last but not least, we're going to need some wood glue, and this is an outdoor project. Titebond 3 is what we're using, always Titebond 3 outdoor. I know I tell you guys that all the time, but it's important to use the right glue. So let's get right after this build. All right, let me lay this out for you guys real quick and show you how it's going to go together. We've basically are going to make a box with these 4 pieces, and then this is going to be on top of our base. This is the premise for this particular little box, and then our roof is going to go on top like this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to drill our holes in our doorway for the birds. I'm going to grab something sacrificial underneath, and what we are going to do is we're going to find the dead center of this. 1x6 is 5.5 inches wide, so half of that is 2 3/4. And we cut this to 7 inches. Half of that is 3.5. This particular mark right here, this is where our 1 3/4 inch hole is going to go. Once that hole is drilled, we're going to then come down from the bottom of that hole 1 inch, drill our other hole for our perch, little peg that we're going to stick out that the birds can rest on. So let's drill a hole. And then from the bottom of this hole, we're just going to come down and make a mark at 1 inch. Doesn't matter if we go this way or this way, because we haven't established top or bottom yet, but we're just going to come down from here 1 inch, and then we're going to center that as well at 2 3/4. This is where we're going to drill our 3/8 inch hole. And I'm not sure, there it is, where my 3/8 inch bit went. And this hole, we didn't drill all the way through. There's no reason to. Once this dowel goes in here with some glue, it's going to stay just fine. So let me clean up this mess real quick, and then we will get on to the assembly. All right, let's get this assembled. We're going to basically make a box. First thing we're going to do is just glue and tack our 4 pieces together to form our box. Then we can get it mounted on our base and then finish up with that top roof that we're going to screw in. So glue, a few brad nails. That's it on assembly. Let's get to it. All right, so at this point, this is what we've got. We've got our box basically built, and we're going to take our smaller piece, which is the 7.5 inch piece, and we are going to just line this up along the back. Hopefully you can see this on this side camera. We're going to just line this up on the back, and as far as left and right, we're just going to eyeball it, kind of center it on this board. We want our front piece to be the one sticking out. It's going to be our porch, and we are going to make sure that we keep the entire back of this birdhouse flush, so that we can mount this on a wall or the fence if you choose to do so. So same thing, some glue, and we're going to brad this bottom on to our actual box. Last piece, we are going to take our top, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this flat on my work surface, and then I'm going to slide this on here. Same thing, we're going to kind of center this way, just so we've got a nice even reveal on both sides. And the reason I'm laying this flat and sliding this on is because that way, once this thing gets mounted, the back of our house is completely flush. This can go up against the wall or the fence or wherever you decide that you're going to mount this thing. So all we're going to do is we're going to pre-drill. Let me grab a couple screws. We're going to just eyeball this again, center to center, flip this up, and then I am going to drill a hole on this side, and then I'm going to drive a screw in and then repeat on the other side. And again, I think I mentioned this earlier. The reason that we are screwing this lid in place instead of, screwing it instead of gluing it is because we want this to be removable so that at the end of this season, we can get out and clean the house out and prep it for next season. No one wants to move into a dirty place.
This house is absolutely filthy.
So this is where we're at. We're almost finished. As you can see, we cut this a little short on front and back. It does allow for a little bit of airflow, so the birds have some AC. They like AC, but they also like some plumbing. So 2 steps to go. We are going to flip this over. And on the bottom of this, we're just simply going to drill 4 holes. I'm using a, I don't know, I think it's a 1/4 inch bit. Doesn't really matter. We're just going to drill some holes in here. This is going to offer some drainage because, you know, birds are going to be doing all of their business in here.
Do not go in there. Woo!
Last step. Little glue on this peg. We're going to just put this in and rotate it. Get that glue nice and covering that dowel. Take a rag, clean up as always. That's it. Build number 2 is finished. DIY friendly, beginner friendly, kid and grandkid friendly. As always, make it your own. Take this, change it up. Make this taller so you've got area in there for 2 birdhouses. Make a little birdhouse townhome. Go side by side, make this wider, make a little duplex. I mean, who knows? These birds have probably got family flying in for the winter. They need somewhere to stay, right? What's better than right next door? So customize this, make it your own. As always, that's it for build number 2. Let's get to build number 3.
And finally this week is this rustic looking shelf for the bathroom. This is made to complement the bathtub tray we made a couple weeks ago. This thing is made from some scrap 2x4s and some pallet wood. Let's get it going. All right, guys, project 3. This very, very rustic shelf that is going to wind up in our bathroom. So for today's build, we are using some scrap 2x4s and we are using pallet wood. If you do not have pallet wood, you can absolutely use 1x4s for this. It's just not going to look as rustic, and you might want to make yours a little more modern anyway. And if that's the case, I would recommend using some 1x4s. Pallet wood is going to always give you that very rustic look. That's what we're going for with this shelf. So if you've never broken down a pallet before, there's a couple ways to do that. I might actually do a short to help you beginners out on breaking down a pallet. I use my Sawzall and I cut the surface boards off of the others. I like to leave the nail heads in here. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a rustic look, what we're trying to accomplish here. A lot of people will pry the boards off and then pop the nails out. I understand if you're running that through your table saw or your miter saw, you really need to do that. 99% of the time when I pull these boards off, I make my cuts away from the nails, so it's not a concern for me, but maybe I'll show you guys a video on that one day. But for today, we're using some scrap 2x4s and we're using some pallet wood. So here's your cut list. This cut list is for this exact size shelf. If you make it your own, change up your dimensions, no big deal. So I have 3 pieces. This is going to be the back of the shelf. These are cut at 29 inches long. I know 29 is a weird number, but That's how long these were off this little pallet. So we're just going to leave them 29 inches. I have 3 scrap pieces of 2x4s. These are cut to 10.5 inches long each. I have 3 pieces of pallet wood. These are cut to, I can't even read my own writing here. These are 11 3/4. And then we have 6 pieces of pallet wood. These are cut to 4 1/4 inch each. This is all the lumber we're going to need for this shelf. Now let's get into the tools that you're going to need. So here's your tool list. We are going to need nails. I'm using, as always, my brad nailer. We are going to need our drill with countersink bit. And we are going to need our driver to drive the screws in. We're also going to need wood glue, and we're going to need some brads. That's it. So let's get after it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to establish where we want our shelves. Now we're going to work upside down because we need to mark the back of our shelf where our 2x4s are going to line up. Let me just kind of give you a little premise of how this is going to go together. We're going to put our 2x4s here. This is going to form the actual shelves. And so we don't see these 2x4s. We're going to dress each one of these shelves up with our pallet wood, wrap it around either side. It's going to form what looks like a box. That's the premise of how this is going together. So step 1 is going to be laying out where we want our shelves. I have already figured out on mine. I want each shelf to be 8 inches apart. So I'm going to come down 8 inches, put a 2x4. I'm going to come down 8 more inches, put the next 2x4, and then we're going to come down 8 inches and put the next 2x4. This gives us nice even spacing, and 8 inches is a good amount of space. It's going to hold your normal stuff in your bathroom, your shampoo bottles, body wash, whatever else you want to put on there. Now, if you prefer, you could make this 7 inches, raise each one of these up. That would leave you some more room at the bottom if you maybe wanted to add some hooks, hang a robe, your wife's turby twist, I think that's what they're called, whatever, for the hair, right? We don't need that because a couple episodes back we built a towel rack that we're actually using that holds our robes and stuff on that as well. This is going to be a separate shelf for some other stuff. So we're going to do 8 inches in between, and I am simply going to mark these 2x4s on each of these boards. We're going to mark top and bottom, and that's going to give us our center line where we need to pre-drill our holes for our screws. And as you can see, this is not precision woodworking. This is a very rustic shelf. We want, the most important thing here is that we're somewhat level. So I'm just going to measure both sides to make sure that we're pretty level. 17, 26 1/4. All right, right here, we're going to pre-drill 1 screw through each of these pieces of pallet wood, and then we're going to put these on the back side and drive them in. So let's get some holes drilled. All right, next step is going to be to drive in our screws. I'm using 1.5 inch long screws. That's more than enough. We just want enough to get through this and into our 2x4s. So I am going to start by laying our 2x4s underneath here. Just going to kind of line these up and move these boards over, and then we're going to center and align everything a little more precise as we go to screw this in. So I'm going to start at the bottom here. Just want to make sure that these 3 boards are lined up this way, and then we're going to line up our 2x4 underneath on our marks. And pallet wood, just so you know, I'm sure if you've used it before you know this, pallet wood is not extremely precise as far as its cuts. So you're going to have gaps and stuff. That kind of adds to the rustic charm. Just make sure that your ends right here are lined up, and adjust your center board accordingly with the gap as even or as uneven as you want it. So let's drive in these screws. All right, and now we're going to repeat for the next two 2x4s. Drive 3 screws in each one. Just make sure that our shelves are lined up with our pencil marks. That's going to assure that our shelves are level. And you'll see when we flip this thing over and we actually build the front of these shelves, if this is off a slight bit, don't worry. We can actually balance it out when we put our facing boards on the front. That's going to be the most important thing when we level that out. So let's drive in these other 6 screws. All right, so this was the closest thing I had. I just needed to wedge this board over about a 1/16 of an inch. I just want to make sure that my edges right here are flush, and this board had a little bit of a bend to it, so I just used the closest thing I had to wedge it over. So let's flip this thing over, and this is where we're at. And right here, this is what I was telling you about. If let's just say one of your boards is a slight bit off center, we can actually take this and square it up whichever way we need to. This is going to go on with some brad nails and glue, and we are going to tack our first one in place on top, and then we're going to follow up with our side pieces, and this is going to form this little box around this 2x4, and this is going to give us our final look that we're going for right here. So wood glue, this is going in a bathroom. It's going to get a little humidity on it, but it's nothing that we need to worry about. So tight bond 1, tight bond 2. And we're going to use our pieces on the side to temporarily make sure that we get this front board centered. You don't want to put this front board in place and have it offset too much. We want to make sure we use these pieces kind of as our guide to get this centered. And I'm just going to tack this in place with a few brads. I'm not even worried about the brad nail holes being exposed because this is pallet wood and it already has nail holes. So all we're going to do is tack this in place. And then we can flip this on its side and knock out our side pieces the same exact way. Some glue, a couple brads, and we just want to make sure that we do our best to kind of line it up, especially on the back side. If you find these pieces are a little long, just make sure you cut them. We want this flat so that this goes up against the wall evenly. That's it. Extremely rustic shelf made from pallet wood. Now, depending on how high you are mounting this up on your wall, if you see up into these cavities and you don't like the look of it, cut yourself an extra piece of pallet wood, tack it to the bottom. You see, I don't have an exact size, but look, if you were to put this in here, if you're worried about seeing it, it's going to cover up that 2x4 on the bottom. This is not going to be seen from the eye level we're mounting it, so I'm not too concerned about the 2x4 being seen underneath. So that's it. Project 3, very rustic shelf. Now, before this gets put up on the wall, as I'm sure you guys saw in the intro video, this does get sanded down a little bit. I don't want to over sand any kind of pallet wood because it takes away the rustic charm, the rusticness, whatever, of pallet wood. But yeah, so we're going to run our sander over this, and I will put a coat of polyurethane on this. It's going in the bathroom. It's just going to need a little protection from the humidity. Other than that, Project 3 is done. So Real quick, let's talk about what we need from you guys on this video to give away next video. Here's all I'm asking for: subscribers, comments, likes. Super easy. Last time we did a video, I asked for certain criteria and you guys blew it out of the water, like always. So let's keep it up. Giveaways next week is going to be the same thing. Shop tool for you guys, somewhere between 40 and 50 bucks. I always reach out via email. We correspond that way. I get a feel for what you have in your shop currently, what your needs might be. And I try to send our winner something extremely useful, something they definitely need, and something they will definitely use in their shop. So give us a thumbs up. Like, share, subscribe. As always, we are growing this channel way faster than I ever anticipated, and it's all because of you guys. So as far as beginners episode number 8, that's a wrap. Don't forget, next week, intermediate woodworking series comes out. We're going to bust out 2 intermediate projects each time we post one of those. The reason we're doing 2 instead of 3 is those are going to be a little bit more in depth as far as builds and time consumption. We're opening up the shop. Hopefully you guys will get to see some things that you haven't seen yet on this particular series: the router table, the planer, the table saw, the bandsaw, etc. We're going to use them all on our intermediate woodworking series. So hopefully you guys will stick around and catch us next week on that particular video. That's it. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with us, and we will catch you guys on YouTube.